me up when September ends because, my God, this has been one of the wildest months of college football that I have ever seen. I mean, seriously, guys, what did we just watch this past Saturday? The number 3 and the number 6 team in the country both went down. 5 top 25 teams in all fell on Saturday afternoon. So, of course, we're going to have tons of shakeups in the AP Top 25 poll. Of course, all those shakeups we will bring to you on Monday with our AP Top 25 reaction video. But this was an unbelievable weekend of college football. We knew things were going to pick up with the return of the SEC, with the beginning of Big 12 conference play. But I don't think anybody could have predicted what went down over the course of this entire Saturday. So let's go ahead and just break down the madness game by game. We're going to start over here on our whiteboard, though, taking a look at how we did. Despite the wild week, we did a fairly solid job predicting it. Fantastic straight up. 19-2, 90.5%, guys. 91% if you want to round up. Only missed 2 games when it came to predicting these games straight up in week 4. That brings our overall on the year through 4 weeks to 40-11, which is a 78.4% winning percentage. That's well above our goal of 76%. We've got a long ways to go, but we've got a pretty good start right now. Against the spread, great week for us. 6-4 brings our overall to 17-16. So 60% in week 4 brings our overall to 51.5%. 52 if you would like to round up. Of course, it could have been a little bit better. Alabama allowed Missouri to cover late. Liberty made Florida International look like one of the best offenses in the Conference USA. So it could have been a little bit better, but we'll happily take a winning week. It was a disappointing week 3. We promised all of you guys that we were going to bounce back in week 4. That's exactly what we did. We do not have bad weeks often. When we do, we always bounce back. We're above 500 now, and we will not dip below that for the rest of the year. And again, while it might have been a rough start to the season, we still have a better against the spread record than every single analyst, every single one over at CBS Sports and countless others over at ESPN and Saturday Down South. Again, when we say we are better than 80% of the national analysts, it's not a lie. The numbers speak for themselves. All you have to do is go look at them. So a great week in week 4 for us. Absolutely thrilled, and we're going to carry that momentum into week 5. Unlike some of these teams that fell in week 4. And we're going to start here with Oklahoma. What happened? What happened in Norman? This was one of the games that when I looked at it in the third quarter, I thought, oh, Oklahoma's got this thing in the bag, taking care of business. They're going to remain in the top 4. No worries there. Check the score a few minutes later. Kansas State is tied with the Sooners. The Wildcats went into Oklahoma, the 3rd-ranked team in the country, and defeated them for the 2nd year in a row. Not once, but twice. They have defeated the Sooners now under Chris Kleiman. Keep in mind, guys, this is the same Kansas State team that lost to Arkansas State in Manhattan 2 weeks ago. This is the same Kansas State team that lost to a Sun Belt opponent at home 2 weeks ago and just went on the road, defeated the 3rd-ranked team in the country with a handful of players out in this game. Keep that in mind. The Wildcats trailed the Sooners by 21 points with under 2 minutes remaining in the 3rd quarter. They then decided to rattle off 24 straight points. They were down 21. Kansas State scored the final 24 points in that game. And I'm still just dumbfounded by what transpired on Saturday afternoon. Spencer Rattler, an abysmal performance for him. Great when it comes to yardage, but had 3 interceptions. He threw an interception on the 6th play of the game for Oklahoma, and then threw an interception with 49 seconds left. Things kind of came full circle for Oklahoma against Kansas State. So an unbelievable performance for Chris Kleiman and his Wildcats, a major bounce-back win, a much-needed win. And now you have to wonder, is Oklahoma going to even make the college football playoff in 2020? I know it's early, and I know that Oklahoma has dropped a regular season game every year under Lincoln Riley and still made the playoff. But next week they go to Iowa State. They play Texas. They go to Texas Tech. They still have Oklahoma State. The Big 12 might not get a team in to the Final Four. Unbelievable. Job well done by Chris Kleiman and the Wildcats. Lincoln Riley and the Sooners, you've got some work to do. Moving on to the SEC, it's back, and it was back in full force, and it was so good to have the Southeastern Conference back in action. We start with number 5 Florida taking down the Lane Train, stopping the Lane Train really in its tracks. I give Ole Miss a lot of credit, though, for what they did against this Florida defense. Yes, Florida won 51-35, a very high-scoring matchup they covered, as a matter of fact, in that game. Kyle Trask, the man, 416 yards and 6 touchdowns. He's the best quarterback in the SEC for a reason, or at least we thought he was. KJ Costello is looking to steal that title. But still, 416 yards and 6 touchdowns in this game. 4 of those touchdowns went to Kyle Pitts, arguably the best tight end in America. He had 4 touchdowns along with 170 reception yards. But Lane Kiffin and his offense should not be overlooked. They put up 613 yards of offense against a very good Florida defense. And I loved what Lane Kiffin decided to do. He started Matt Corral at quarterback, but incorporated John Rice Plumlee into that offense. Plumlee, a great quarterback, a dual threat quarterback, used him a lot in the passing game or as a receiver. And I thought that was a brilliant game plan by Kiffin. I don't necessarily think Florida was prepared for that. Ole Miss put up a lot of points. Their defense just didn't have an answer for the Gators in a game that featured over 1,200 yards of combined offense. Unbelievable. But Florida gets the win. The future looking bright for Lane Kiffin, though. Sticking in the SEC, Auburn, they survived the 23rd ranked Kentucky Wildcats, took them down 29-13. A game that was really, really interesting. A game that had a lot of questionable calls from the officials and a lot of questionable calls from Kentucky. Look at the end of the first half, guys. If you watch this game, Kentucky was in the end zone. They scored. They scored a touchdown. The referee said they didn't. Kentucky should have gone to halftime leading. Should have gone to halftime up over Auburn. On third down, after they ruled that he did not get in the end zone, Kentucky threw an interception, which Auburn returned 100 yards at the buzzer. A 100-yard pick six at the buzzer. Well, then that was called back due to targeting. They reviewed that play for a long, long time, probably longer than it should have been. And I really don't think they were reviewing it for targeting. I think they were reviewing it to see if Auburn stepped out of bounds. In the midst of all that, they saw targeting and decided to call it. I almost view that as a makeup call for the blown call that they had just a few seconds prior. So you have that, and then Kentucky had too many turnovers themselves. Too many times they shot themselves in the foot. Terry Wilson had a couple crucial turnovers, a poor fumble when he tried to do this weird spin move. That resulted in Auburn recovering that and getting points out of that. Mark Stoops decided to try to do this weird fake punt deep in their own territory. Kentucky just shot themselves in the foot too many times. You cannot blame the officials fully for the loss that Kentucky suffered on the Plains. Bo Nix, though, he impressed me. A good Kentucky defense. He put up 233 yards and 3 touchdowns on the Wildcats. So I think Bo Nix really impressed a lot of people. Impressed me under Chad Morris, the new offensive coordinator for the Tigers. And he could be looking to take a major step forward in his second year as starter with Auburn. So a good win for the Tigers. They'll remain a top 10 team going into Week 5. Kentucky will drop out, but they will find themselves back in very soon. Back over to the ACC. Pittsburgh, they take down Louisville. That was one of those sneaky good ranked versus ranked matchups that a lot of people weren't talking a lot about because of the return of the SEC, because of a couple other marquee matchups. But this was a good game from start to finish. And it was that battle between Pittsburgh's defense and Louisville's offense. Who was going to win that battle? And at one point in time, Louisville stormed all the way back. Pittsburgh dominated, I'd say, for about the first quarter and a half or so, but Louisville stormed all the way back, took that lead before Pittsburgh finally kicked it into high gear. The Panthers sacked Louisville 7 times in the game. They forced 3 turnovers in this game, including the game-winning interception with 1:19 left. So 7 sacks. That pass rush was no match for Louisville's offensive line, or they were a match for Louisville's offensive line, I should say. It was the other way around. Pittsburgh's defense continuing to show that they're one of the best in the ACC, one of the best in the conference. And get this, the stat that I love the most out of this game is how Pittsburgh bottled up Javion Hawkins, the running back for the Cardinals. Hawkins did have a 75-yard touchdown run. But if you take that run away, Hawkins was held to 3 rushing yards on 12 carries. 3 rushing yards on 12 carries. He was averaging a quarter of a yard per carry if you take away that 75-yard rushing touchdown. So a fantastic job by Pat Narduzzi and the Panthers. They are 3-0 for the first time since 2014. Back over to the SEC, a quick note. Georgia, the 4th-ranked team in the country, they survived a minor scare for about the first 2.5 quarters against Sam Pittman, the new head coach at Arkansas. The Bulldogs were down by an odd score of 7-5 at halftime, actually trailed the Razorbacks 10-5 early in the third quarter before the Bulldogs finally woke up and scored the remaining 32 points to win the game 37-10. And I will say this, say what you want, but that game to me was closer than the score really indicated. A lot of credit should be given to Barry Odom and Arkansas's defense. They did a great job shutting down Georgia in the run game, but eventually they just got worn down because the Razorbacks could not move the ball at all against what is arguably the best defense in the country in the Bulldogs. So great for Georgia to bounce back, get that win. Hopefully JT Daniels will be cleared soon and they'll find some consistency at quarterback. Arkansas, the future looking very bright for them. The defense looking very bright for them, although they're going to have their hands full next week when they take on a potential Heisman candidate now in KJ Costello. Are you kidding me? Who would have thought that KJ Costello, the transfer quarterback from Stanford, was going to come in and make his debut with Mike Leach, also making his debut with Mississippi State and in the SEC, and set an SEC record for 623 passing yards in a single game. 623 passing yards in a single game. Costello led the Mississippi State Bulldogs, who were 16.5-point underdogs in this game, to a 44-34 victory over the 6th-ranked LSU Tigers, the reigning national champions in Death Valley. You can't make this stuff up. There were so many doubts about Mike Leach bringing his air raid offense into the SEC. Would it work? You got to have balance in the SEC. You got to have defense in the SEC. And Mike Leach has never been known for defense, so it's not going to work. Everybody thought that. Mike Leach has proved the haters and the doubters all wrong. And say what you want. Say what you want. Yes, we know LSU had a lot of key pieces missing. Derek Stingley, arguably the best cornerback in America, did not play in this game. Yes, we know they lost, 17 starters from that national championship squad last year? Joe Burrow, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jamar Chase opting out of this season. Only a couple of starters back on defense, Stingley being one of them. He didn't even play. So yes, we know that LSU was depleted. But the Tigers became the first reigning national champion to lose their season opener, since 1998. And I'm here to tell you that Mike Leach and KJ Costello are not going anywhere. They are going to be a force to be reckoned with in the SEC this year. They defied expectations in week 1. They defied expectations by going on the road to Death Valley and pulling off the major upset. And there's a very good chance Mississippi State could actually be SEC West title contenders in 2020. And I guarantee you nobody thought that was going to happen. So a fantastic job by Leach and his Bulldogs. LSU, you're going to be fine. We knew there were going to be growing pains in week 1. We maybe just didn't know it was going to be that many. Tigers are still going to be a force to be reckoned with. They're going to drop out of the top 10. Might even drop all the way down to me. I'd put them around 13th to 15th, in that range. It was a bad loss. But Miles Brennan did look good, and I think they're going to be just fine, especially when Stingley gets back on that defense. Back into the Big 12. Conference play. We saw Oklahoma go down. Their arch rival in Texas almost went down as well, and they should have. The 8th-ranked Longhorns survived Texas Tech 63-56 in overtime. If you love offense, this was the game for you. The crazier thing about this, though, is that Texas trailed the Red Raiders, the 8th-ranked team in the country, trailed the Red Raiders by 15 points with 3 minutes and 13 seconds left. The FPI, the Football Power Index, was giving Texas Tech a 99.8% chance to win this game. When they scored a touchdown to go up 15 with 3:13 left, they had nearly a 100% chance to win this game. And the Red Raiders found a way to lose. Very much to me, very similar to the Atlanta Falcons versus the Dallas Cowboys just last week. They found a way to lose. Texas, to me, did not find a way to win. Texas sent the game to overtime, won it in overtime, scoring those 15 points in just a little over 3 minutes. Sam Ehlinger and Alan Bowman of Texas Tech, the two quarterbacks, combined for 10 touchdowns and 4 interceptions in this game. So a sloppy game at times for both. A game Texas probably should have won by a lot more, but a lot of credit to the Red Raiders and their job, especially after giving up so many yards to Houston Baptist just a few weeks ago. Held their own against an in-state rival, a top 10 in-state rival, but Matt Wells and his Red Raiders just not quite there yet to get that key upset. Wrapping it up with 2 more games here, Alabama kicked off the post-Tua Tagovailoa era with a big win, a 38-19 victory on the road against Missouri, starting off the season 1-0 and 1-0 in conference play. Eli Drinkwitz, the new head coach for Missouri, dropping his first game. And honestly, you look at this and you say, well, 19 points, that's not that bad for Missouri. That score is a lot closer than the game really was. The game was an absolute blowout. Alabama was leading Missouri 35-6 in the fourth quarter, going into the fourth quarter. They let up, they put in their scrubs, and Missouri took advantage of that. They even scored a touchdown as time expired, ran it in as time expired. So don't let the score fool you. Alabama dominated from start to finish, and Mac Jones, who we luckily saw quite a bit of last year when Tua went down with an injury, a guy that did have experience, led the Crimson Tide to their bowl win over Michigan. He came out and went 18 for 24 for 249 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I was very impressed with how well Mac Jones played. I was very impressed for the most part with how Alabama's defense played. They did a very good job. A lot of key pieces back from injury from 2019, and they could be one of the better defenses in the SEC this season. Got a big test coming up against Texas A&M next week, although the Aggies not looking too hot against a Vanderbilt squad in College Station. Another game that was actually 7-5 at halftime. What are the odds you have 2 scores within the same conference that are 7-5 at halftime? But A&M pulling out that win in the fourth quarter and taking down a pesky Vanderbilt squad that which would never, ever go away. And then finally, to wrap up week 4, before we talk about our teams trending up and trending down, Miami. Don't doubt the U, guys. Do not doubt the Hurricanes. They are legit. They took down their rival, Florida State, 52-10. And what did I tell you? We broke down our game of the week between Miami and Florida State, and we said, Miami, first off, will win this game by double digits. We knew that was going to happen. There was no doubt in my mind. But we said that if given the opportunity, Manny Diaz is going to run up the score on the Seminoles. They're going to run up the score on their bitter rivals. And that's exactly what they did. They won by 42 points. My gosh. 517 yards of offense for the Hurricanes. That's the largest victory for Miami over Florida State since 1976 when they shut out the Seminoles 47-0. The Hurricanes have now won 4 straight over Florida State. They had 6 sacks against the Seminoles. They forced 3 Florida State turnovers, broke out that turnover chain 3 different times on Saturday night, and Miami is looking really, really good. Not just in the ACC, but on the national stage as well. I said that when the Big Ten came back, Miami might not stay at 12. They might drop a few spots. I don't think that's going to be the case anymore. I think, if anything, they're going to stay right at 12, but there's a good chance this could be a top 10 team going into week 5. And again, I don't think many people thought that was going to happen just a few weeks ago. So all the credit in the world to De'Aaron King, Rhett Lashley, and Manny Diaz for slowly but surely bringing the U back to relevancy, not just in the ACC, but on the national stage as well. So man, what a week. What a week. I mean, this is why college football is so great, because as we've said, anything's possible. Anything can happen. Never take a game for granted. Never take an opponent for granted or a player for granted. Anything can happen on any given Saturday, and that was in full effect this Saturday. A wild week of college football, but one of the best weeks of college football we have seen in a long, long time. We're going to take a look at our teams trending up and trending down. Again, we promised that was coming back last week. We're a man of our word. We're going to bring it back this week. And we take a look at these teams here. Obviously, there are some that haven't played that much. Obviously, there are some that you wouldn't even think of. 2 Conference USA teams here. As the SEC continues to play, as the Big 12 continues to play, these teams will change and we will have more options to choose from. It's been very slim pickings right now because not many teams have played many games so far in 2020. But nonetheless, we did find a few. Let's start with Pittsburgh, trending up. The Panthers, we touched on them briefly. They're 3-0 for the first time since 2014. The defense, absolutely ridiculous. Unreal. Yes, they are one of the best in the entire country. And there's a very good chance that Pittsburgh could be 5-0 going into their game against Miami here in a few weeks because their next two games are against North Carolina State and Boston College. NC State getting blown out by Virginia Tech this past week. Boston College winning late against Texas State out of the Sun Belt. Doesn't sound too promising to me. Pittsburgh will be 5-0 going into that game against Miami. And that's going to be a game that is going to be way bigger than anyone thought it was going to be back when these schedules were released. Mississippi State, touched on them earlier. Yeah, they deserve to be trending up, even if it's only one game. They just beat the reigning national champions at their house by double digits and threw for over 600 yards in the process with a brand new head coach. No big deal. I mean, it's unreal what Mike Leach did in a short amount of time and what he's going to do over this extended period of time during his time in Starkville. The next few games for Mississippi State are against Arkansas at home, on the road against Kentucky, and at home against Texas A&M. There's a good chance Mississippi State can win all of those games. Kentucky, I think, probably going to be the toughest test out of all of those. If Mississippi State wins all, they're going to be 4-0. They're going to be a top 15 team, and they for sure will be taken seriously as SEC West title contenders. And then finally, we have UTEP. Why is UTEP up here? Are you kidding me? Well, they kind of deserve to be. Again, we had very limited teams to choose from here, but the Miners are off to their best start since 2010. They're 3-1 right now. Back in 2010, they started 5-1. They now have their most wins in a season since 2014. They went 4-8 in 2014. They're 3-1 right now, so they have a very good chance to at least match that record, or at least match that win total in 2020. But unbelievable what the Miners are doing this season. They're about to kick off Conference USA play. Granted, out of the 3 wins, only one of them is against an FBS opponent. It came this week against Louisiana Monroe. But nonetheless, if you're a Miners fan, I don't know how many we have out there, but if you're a Miners fan, you have to be happy with the progress that's being made. A program that I think has won, 2 games combined in the past 2 seasons. So they're trending up. They're certainly trending in the right direction. Trending down, Duke. They're 0-3. Many thought this could be a team that can make a bowl game in 2020, or at least contend for one, with Chase Bryce coming in, transfer quarterback from Clemson. And we told you that we thought Chase Bryce would really hit his stride next year under David Cutcliffe, that we thought they'd go through some growing pains in year 1, and that's exactly what's happening. Bryce, in his past 2 games against Virginia, who Duke just lost to 38-20, and Boston College, who Duke lost to 26-6 last week, has thrown for 2 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. It's a horrible ratio. Bryce is struggling big time with the Blue Devils. He'll improve next year, but with an 0-3 start, seems like this season is a lost cause for Duke. Florida State, we just touched on them a second ago. They're 0-2. Bad home loss to Georgia Tech. Embarrassing road loss to their rival in Miami. We knew they were going to lose that game, but you hate to lose by that much, especially to a rival. They have no offense whatsoever. People expected better things from Mike Norvell. I know he didn't coach against Miami, but right now the offense is practically non-existent for the Seminoles. And look, it's not going to get easier. The next 4 games for Florida State, all without a break. No bye weeks here. At Notre Dame, North Carolina, at Louisville, Pittsburgh. 4 straight games, no breaks in between those games. And I hate to say it if you're a Seminoles fan, but there's a chance Florida State could start 0-6. As if 2020 couldn't get any more wild, any more crazy. Florida State's 0-2, rough stretch coming up for them. And then finally, Southern Miss out of the Conference USA. Another team here, they're 0-3. Their head coach, Jay Hopson, resigned following the devastating and embarrassing home loss against South Alabama in Week 1. They're coming off another heartbreaking loss to Louisiana Tech last week. A game they led by 17, ended up falling 31-30. 0-2. This past week, at home, they fell to Tulane 66-24, allowing 572 yards of offense. What are you supposed to do? This is a Golden Eagles squad that was supposed to be solid in the Conference USA, contenders in the Conference USA. Had a great quarterback in Jack Abraham, an experienced one at that. And their offense looks non-existent. Their team as a whole looks non-existent. So Southern Miss struggling mightily in their conference and certainly not going to be contending for any sort of conference title or championship appearance in 2020, unlike many thought they could. So, it's a lot to take in, I know. Look at the timestamps, guys. We got timestamps down here in the video if you're looking to find a certain game that we're going to discuss. But a lot to cover in Week 4 because it was such a hectic and wild Week 4. But again, like we said, that's what makes college football so great. That's what makes it unpredictable. That's what makes it exciting. And that's what makes every Saturday just the best. That's what makes college football the best, and that's what makes every Saturday so unknown because you cannot take anything for granted. Oklahoma knows that. LSU knows that. Countless other teams over the course of the season will slowly start to figure that out. The season's still young, especially for the SEC. The season hasn't even begun for other conferences such as the Big Ten and the Pac-12 and the MAC and the Mountain West, teams that will soon return to fully complete this college football slate and this college football season. Things are just getting started, and they are only going to get better from here on out. So guys, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos. Check out everything down in the description below. We've got our weekly newsletter coming out later this week. Expert Picks coming out later this week. You don't want to miss it. We're on a roll right now. We're going to start making our comeback right now. And of course, our Patreon account for some exclusive content that you will not find anywhere else. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.